Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Jiamu, Pachera, Valeni, Hau, Chunashumme, Washmale. Ohio Gonzalez, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifa Hal? Hale Shuma Chatore, Ahlan Masal, Marhaba, Buna, Mucho Gracias, Swabi, Balli Kareaya, Hoj Galden, Nayo Sayo, Huyamora, Chimato, Chihal, Yod, Kalimera. Khair Utar, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Ms. Hajar Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, hello Hajar, Assalamu Alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum Assalam. Thank you so much for introducing me. Jazakallah khair. And today happens to be the World Earth Day. So without monopolizing a conversation any further, I think we would like to share some of the stats because this planet Earth is where we live. We cohabitate, and I think this is the only planet where humans can survive, and the way we are dealing with this planet obviously raises a lots of question mark. So with regards to World Earth Day and especially the plastic pollution that we humans have ensured on this planet, it's not just the land that is filled with the plastic, it's also the ocean, the river bodies, and not just that, the fetuses, they're also, according to the latest research, have also the plastic inside them. And not just that, I think few days ago or few months ago, there was a research conducted in China in which it said that the clouds have also the pollution or the plastic pollution inside them, and whenever it was raining, the plastic was going down again into the landslide. And again, this is a very concerning thing. But we also had the treaty where they were ensuring that by 2040, 60% of the plastic had to be reduced, but that requires a big change in our lifestyle. And the question is, are we ready to sacrifice all of these luxuries which are so dependent and hinge around the concept of the plastic? This is something that we are going to delve on in order to make sure that our coming generation and us, we are going to live a healthier life on this planet.
Exactly. On this occasion, ladies and gentlemen, we would certainly want to share what the theme is as well. So why don't we go and take a good look at this small promo video as well for everybody who's out there, because today, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be planet versus plastic. Let's go. Let's take a good look. And in addition to that, ladies and gentlemen, as Hajra has rightfully pointed out as well, imagine that the scientists now believe that most kinds of cancers, not just that, Alzheimer's disease, there's so many other illnesses which are actually because of the fact that we are consuming microplastics. We are having babies with microplastic in them as well. So plastic has infested itself amongst us as well. So I think at this point of time, what we really need to kind of reiterate upon is that the message our leadership has to kind of give away to the world, and how we're going to curb the menace of plastic. And on this occasion, I would like to share, the Honorable Prime Minister's tweet with all of our viewers out there in 47 different countries, that today Pakistan joins the international community to commemorate Earth Day. The day reminds us of our shared responsibility to protect our planet for now and for posterity. Let us strive to be ecologically more conscious in our endeavors and fostering a greener approach in our daily life. Let us resolve to reduce our carbon and environmental footprint. And if that is the kind of stand that the leadership is going to take, ladies and gentlemen, you do know for sure that there is going to be change in coming days. But the question is, do you think that the world will be able to do it by 2040? This is a question because of the fact that imagine that SDGs came out, everybody wanted to do so much about, climate change and, global warming and whatnot. And even then, there were countries, developed countries who actually said that, okay, we've been prospering because of the industrialization which is taking place, and we are not going to stop. We're not going to abide by whatever protocols were out there. So I think that it's going to be a joint and concerted efforts. Talking, I think, precisely domestically, I think we certainly need to have public and private partnerships. But talking internationally, I think the world needs to come together to make this world a better place.
Right, and I think without any further ado, we have someone in the studio who is working on reducing the concept of the plastic, although it will require the collective effort of not just from the top to the bottom, but from the bottom to the top. So without any further ado, we are very glad that we have been joined by someone who happens to be an environmentalist and also the sustainability expert. She happens to be Aisha Majid. Assalamu alaikum, Aisha, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Assalam, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you over here. Not just that, in addition to, ladies and gentlemen, where I've actually mentioned that it's going to be a public-private partnership. It's individuals like these who have stepped up. You know, they're like, okay, you know, let us play the game now, and we can certainly do a little better than wherever we might probably be. So by 2040, if we are to reduce the 60% plastic which is being consumed as of today, ladies and gentlemen, I think that we are thinking about, you know, probably bringing it back into the cycle. So reusing the same plastic. We have a gentleman who 8 months ago actually started his own startup with the name of Reupcycle, or probably I think that's the concept that they actually have. We will be discussing what the concept is, how do they take all of those PET bottles, you know, kind of convert them into something which can actually be made or converted into plastic again as well. So ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we have been joined by Mr. Hashim Akbar. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, how are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam, I'm feeling well, how are you?
Absolutely perfect, thank you so much for joining us, wonderful to have you over here. So to get the conversation started, rather than, you know, asking, you know, what you guys are doing, first of all, what do you think about World Earth Day, and how do you think that we will be able to combat this menace which we have in our lives as of today?
I think it's very important to be celebrating days like the World Earth Day, because we need to think sustainably. We need to think what will happen for our future generations if you don't do something today. So I think today is a very important day. It needs to be celebrated worldwide. It has no religion, it has no caste, it has no
Color.
race, no color. So everyone needs to celebrate it together by doing something for the environment, making a pact to make it more sustainable, and how I call it, more circular.
Wow,
Right,
that's wonderful.
and now Aisha, now let's come back to you and let's keep starting the conversation that we are developing regarding the concept of the plastic. And like Shahzad mentioned, it's a menace because we have seen the effects, physical effects, I think the environmental effects that it's having. But again, combating plastic is a very, I would say, an idea that you are combating against the status quo, and it's not very easy because plastic, number one, it's very cheap, number two, it's portable, number three, it does not weigh very heavy, right?
It's durable.
So, exactly. So how do you think it's possible to maintain those lifestyle changes or induce those lifestyle changes that will reduce plastic? Do you think it's an easy task?
So I think the first thing that we need to do is change mental models around plastic.
Right.
So we think that plastic is something that's very sustainable, it's something that makes our life easy. So when it comes to plastic, when it comes to the production as well as consumption, what we need to change first off is the mental model around it.
Okay.
We need to find and we need to test models that are economically cheaper. That is something that we really need to take into consideration, and a lot of research and experimentation needs to go into it. Then we also need to change the mindset of the consumers around it.
Right.
So for example, we think that it is something that's very convenient. There are things that weren't convenient previously, but now we consider them convenient. So we need to change those models as well. So we need to change, we need to create awareness around it. We need to create awareness around the fact that it is not making our lives easier, it is making our lives more difficult by creating health impacts on us. It has a lot of economic impact on us in terms of the health costs that we have to bear. In terms of there are many behavioral issues that are arising out of plastic. So these are the things that we need to highlight, and the first step is to change the mental models
Thank
around
you so much
it.
for saying that, which is why, you know, I'm going to give you this opportunity to change the mindset of people in 47 different countries where we reach out. So you said that we need cheaper alternatives. You know, imagine that, you know, if I go to any grocery store, I get a shopping bag for free. You know, if I am to kind of convert to a paper bag or another bag, cloth bag as well, you know, it's going to charge me 100 rupees. How is it going to be cheaper? Then you said that it's going to be more convenient. How do you think it's convenient? For example, I went to grocery store again, it's for free, it's convenient, you know, it's durable. How am I going to carry all my stuff, right? And then you said that, you know, when we actually kind of talk about it, there's a lot of awareness. I think, yes, this part we do agree, but how do you think that you're going to change the mindset given these three concepts, cheaper, convenient, and awareness?
So I think what we miss out on in the equation is the kind of impact that universities can create. So universities are innovation hubs, they're the creativity hubs. So what we can do is that we can empower the youth actually to come up with solutions or to find solutions that are actually cheaper, that are more convenient. So for example, the Green Urban Development School, which is being run in ComSats and Qaid-e-Azam University by Institute of Urbanism and support of US Embassy, what they're doing is that they're building capacity of students to actually come up with such results. They're showcasing good examples that are existing around the world. So for example, in India, they're using organic packaging. How they're using that, that is something that we can model in Pakistan as well. Then there are students in Pakistani universities who are actually working on bioplastics for food packaging, and they're trying to come up with solutions that are cost effective. Yes, greener solutions are somewhat
I will come back to this.
Okay.
I just want you to stop over here because this is where I think Hashim will actually play a very important role, because Hashim thought about it. Hashim said, okay, you know, I think what we can do is probably we cannot get rid of plastic, but we can reuse it. Let's talk about your concept and your startup.
Okay, so what we want is we want to reuse, so recycle and upcycle the plastic waste, because in Pakistan we generate 4 million tons of plastic waste every year. More than 70% gets mismanaged, goes back into the environment, and because of that the river Indus is the second largest polluter of plastic waste to the ocean. So if we continue at this rate, by 2050 there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean.
Right.
If you look at it globally, only 9% plastic till date has been collected for recycle.
Even now when you go fishing, man, that's what you get, plastic bottles.
Exactly.
Yes, please go on.
Yeah, so that's what you get. What we want is, yes, we want to work on things which are more sustainable, but also bring back the plastic into circularity. So we reuse what we've already used, not have single use, because plastic is made from oil, from petroleum, which has carbon dioxide emissions, which has greenhouse gas emissions. Going back into landfills again has a problem. Environmentally, it's a problem.
True.
You've mentioned things how microplastics are everywhere in our food, in babies, relating to a lot of diseases. So what the best way is possible is, when we use it, we put it, we sort our waste, and then we send it for recycling or upcycling, and then that's the responsibility.
So how do you sort it? You know, so PET bottle collection. What other sort of plastics do you get?
So the major problem is after consumption. So you get different kinds. You've got HDPE, which is high density polyethylene. You've got LDPE, which is low density. You've got PET. You've got PVC. You've got polystyrene. So there are different things. But
So
don't go into sorting the plastic. It's probably going to be a big challenge.
No, the only thing which I wanted to know was that what sort of plastic can actually be upcycled? You know, that's the question, because imagine that not all plastics would be able to, or probably you would be able to recycle it as well and then bring it back to the market for people to reuse it. So which categories would you recommend that these are the plastics which people can actually work on?
I think the best quality plastics that we have is HDPE, which we can potentially convert into bumpers for cars, internal things, furniture, household items like tables, benches. A lot of universities have benches made out of plastic which looks like wood. So we may make sure that we bring it back and make it stay for its life, because plastic takes 500 years to decompose. So when we leave it in the environment, it just stays there.
Right, and I think now let's move forward this conversation to Aisha, because we are seeing generally, and like our Prime Minister mentioned, that we are striving for a more ecologically conscious consumers, and we see that there generally is awareness among the consumer group or the people who are buying about the degrading effects of the plastics, right? And we've seen that generally there is an effort. So for example, in Islamabad, the Ataturk road that is built, it's called Plastic Road, right? And there are benches which CDA has installed that are made of the plastic, and how they are recycling it. But then again, let's explore the concept of the plastic and how it is impacting at the intersection of the climate change. And like you mentioned, it ends up in the water bodies, and we are seeing the degradation of the coral reefs which sustain the marine life, right? So do you think that by 2040 we will be able to eliminate the plastic, or I mean decrease it by 60%? That is the date.
So I think the first thing that we need to do is that we need to have such goals that we can achieve, and we need to have a practical approach to it.
Feasible goals,
Yeah, we need to have practical approach to it. So yes, it is difficult to achieve the actual targets, but that should not stop us from actually going ahead with the plans that we have. So it's okay to, you know, come up with small plans or come up with small solutions. So for example, recycling solutions that we have, what we need to do is we need to upscale them. We need to find a way to actually replicate those models in other areas. So we do, it's not like we don't have recycling plants in Pakistan, when we don't have recycling projects in Pakistan. It's just that we are not finding a way to upscale those models that we have. So we need to find a way.
So what models do already exist, you know,
So
for our awareness and for the people
so
out
for
there?
example, in Lahore, what they're doing is that they're using PET bottles to make polyester from it, and that polyester is being used to make t-shirts. Yes, one of the things that comes up with is that it's not sustainable in the sense that we're using polyester.
Probably
but
that's
at
how it's
the
getting in our body too as well. You know,
No, but-
plastic converted into polyester.
No, but the thing is, with that, what they're doing is that they're making it safe. And they're making it safe in the sense that it does not transfer into our body. Plus, what they're encountering is that we're not making new plastics, so they're avoiding the problem of virgin plastics with that. So what they're doing is, like Hashim mentioned, they're reusing plastic to make polyester. So that is those are solutions that actually exist in Pakistan.
And I want to bring back, bring you back to where you actually mentioned about bioplastics and how the universities are working as well. So please, kind of.
Yeah, so
Connected.
when I talked about new models, so university students in Qaeda-Azam and ComSats, they are actually trying to explore models where they can have bioplastics or they can make plant-based plastics.
What is bioplastic though? Because you
So-
know we're certainly not aware of it, that there is something which is known as bioplastic.
So what students are trying to do is that they're trying to find a way to make plant-based alternatives to plastic. So for example, food packaging, they're trying to make food packaging out of plant-based models.
The straws
So,
and all.
yeah, so that's what they're trying to achieve. And those plant-based food packaging, they also have expiration dates which not only tell how long the food has, but also how long the packaging has. So we're also encountering that problem as well, where we have expired food at supermarkets. Yeah. So we need to come up with innovative solutions, and students do have such solutions in mind. So that is where HEC can come up and play a role and support those.
But how do you think
Yes,
that this change will happen?
Yes, I guess, and I think that requires a very intense collective effort, especially not just from I mean the top leadership, but also from the people, because they are the actual consumers or the users of the plastic. And unless or until they are ready to change their lifestyle and in a very radical way, I don't think so we can achieve that. But now, Hashim, let's come back to you, and we've seen that. Okay, there is generally awareness among the consumer class about the ecological impacts of the plastic pollution, and we've also seen that lots of brands, lot of multinationals, they are sort of going into the concept of having plastic-free, I mean, usages or I mean, a creation of their brands. But there's a lot of criticism, especially from the climate change activism, that this is a greenwashing. Again, when they talk about combating the plastic pollution, they're not actually into it. They're just doing it for the sake of marketing or to garner more clientele into their, I mean, economy, right? So how do you deal with that? For example, the concept of the electric vehicle. So it does not create pollution, but then again, the batteries that are created for that consumption, they are extremely harmful for the environment and the degradation that it causes.
So,
And they're not even going to degrade, you know, so that's the question, that the materials that they're using to make those batteries are going to be forever then as well.
Of course, they're very
I think so. I personally think multinationals are playing a part. Sindh has given permission to different beverage companies to make recycled bottles and sell them in the market. Other provinces are following suit. So yes, they are working on it. They want to work on circularity because it's better in terms of marketing that they're doing a good job, and B, it's also cheaper for them because when we compare virgin plastic versus recycled, it's about 30-35% cheaper if you go to recycled plastic. There's an economic benefit for the multinationals to also go there. In terms of electric vehicles and batteries, they can also be reused. There's a lot of good things inside. That's called e-waste. So you extract things out of it and then you reuse it because there's precious metals inside, there's precious components inside that we can use. So I think this is more of a mindset shift. How we're actually trying to do is we have an app where we're buying plastic from consumers.
Okay.
We give them money to give us their waste plastic so as to incentivize them, and then eventually we're hoping that they do get consumer friendly.
And this is something which I've seen in Europe as well. You know, you
True,
collect your
true.
plastic bottles, you go to a machine, it gives you euros, you know, and that's where it gets interesting. You like all both Allah, right? Dalo iske andar.
True.
But, you know, very quickly towards the end, one last thing, and that is that, you know, when we are talking about it, imagine, I think it's, you know, she's actually mentioned rightfully as well, we really need to change the mindset around it. Now, everything that we use, maybe the batteries in our car, maybe our cars, you know, other than the engine, I think majority of the stuff is plastic. Our sets, you know, other than wood, it's going to be plastic as well. Do you think that in days to come, we will be able to change this mindset that, hey, you know what, if there's no plastic, we can still manage, we can still make or build good things as well, or probably with alternate cheaper solutions?
Will probably be very difficult, but there needs to be a
That wasn't very hopeful
a conscious effort, because how I see it, we need to have something in parallel working.
True.
Where we make sure that we recycle and upcycle more. So I think it's a collective effort, because you can't just grassroots revolution never works.
Yeah.
It needs to
So
be
just
a
because
slow
you
process.
have a recycling plant now,
Yes,
that does
yes.
not mean that we're not going to think about that, but probably in days to come, if we start to talk about it, it might happen.
No, we definitely want to get rid of plastics, because this is for our future generations. If you want something left, you know what's happening in climate change. I love the weather that we have, but it's not healthy. We're not supposed to be having this weather.
That's true. Thank you so much for
Thank
saying that.
you
What
so
about
much.
you, Aisha? How would you kind of wrap it up?
So I think one thing that we need to focus on is awareness raising.
Yeah.
That is and students and the younger generation can play a big role in it, because that is how we can
उन्हीं
change
का
the
सामान
mindset.
आजकल हम प्लास्टिक बना रहे हैं, वही पैम्पर पहन रहे हैं आजकल. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, please
So,
continue.
so you know, maybe we can find a solution to that. We can, you know, invest in students to find a solution to Pampers. So that is how we can do it. We need to find out the challenges that we're facing, and we need to empower the youth to actually come up with solutions.
And be the
Exactly.
change agents, because
Yeah.
I think that is very much important whenever we want to talk about revolutionizing the way we are living our lifestyle, and that means cutting on a lot of luxuries, and we have to do it because we've seen the perils of the climate change that we are experiencing. So with that, we will say thank you to both of our worthy guests for coming here. Thank you so much. And with that, we will go on a short break, and after we come back, we have a very interesting segment lined up, especially very close to my heart. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Good morning.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned. Earlier, we were observing World Earth Day, how it's going to be planet versus plastic. And by 2040, we need to reduce 60% of the plastic that we consume. Okay, that's my bit. Now, I think that the topic that we have picked up on is very close to Haja as well, so I will allow her to take the lead.
Right.
Please,
So we really want to talk about the concept of the reading, the book reading, and how the inclusivity of the book reading should be the question that we need to ponder upon in Pakistan. So without any further monopolizing our conversation, I think we would quickly like to introduce our guest, because this conversation is going to get very exciting. We are very glad that we have been joined by Ms. Sabeen Naz, who happens to be an educationist and also a remedial therapist. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming to our show, Ms. Sabeen.
Thank you so much for inviting me and giving me an opportunity to join your show.
Right.
Thank
Truly
you
deserve
so
it.
much.
Jazakallah
Thank you so
khair.
much.
And Ms. Sabeen is also joined by Ms. Fatma Gilani, who happens to be a philanthropist and also the lawyer. She is also the CEO of the Read Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum, Ms. Fatma, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Assalamualaikum ji. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Walaikum.
Right. So, Ms. Sabeen, let's start the conversation with you. And since you are dealing with the concept of inclusive education, and we know for the fact that the detection rate of the neurodiversity or the neurodiverse conditions is increasing it's very alarming, right? Or is it alarming? We will like to ask you. So, what sort of concept of the inclusive education have you embarked upon, and how do you individually cater to the needs of kids? Because obviously, for a teacher, it might become a very burdensome task, right? Differently catering to every other person's needs and every child's need, which is very different in educational institutions.
Yes, you're absolutely right that the situation is very alarming, and unfortunately we don't have any research here in Pakistan,
True.
but according to American statistics that 1 out of 5 is a dyslexic,
Right.
means who has learning difficulties.
Right.
So it is really very alarming situation, no doubt. And for that, we have recently introduced dyslexic law. We have managed to pass
Yes,
a dyslexic law by the President of President Alvi of Pakistan. And now we have introduced an inclusive setup in education sector, and in which we cater the needs of almost all sort of learning, who have learning difficulties.
And you call it IDEAS, the Institute of Dyslexia Education and Aptitudinal Studies as well. You know, it's a wonderful initiative. Please tell us a little more about it.
It's Alhamdulillah, we are the pioneer sort of persons who started working on dyslexia, and we are the first institution of the North in Pakistan.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. So we've actually really struggled for it, because it's a neurological disorder. So we can't actually see that this disability.
True.
So unfortunately, it is not very much identified. We cannot really identify that this person is, you know,
because
having
symptoms are
dyslexic or
very
not,
stealthy sort of symptoms. They do not manifest as like of the physical disease. But now let's move on to Ms. Fatma. So because of the paucity of the time, Ms. Fatma, since you happen to be the CEO of the Read Pakistan, so tell us about this initiative, and considering the fact that since I'm also a teacher and I do see that there's a declining trend among the young people about the book reading, because in order to get the information, they either go to their mobile phones or their digital gadgets. The information is very quick, it's very short, as compared to book, which requires, you know, your time and investment into reading. So is it alarming, I mean, the declining trend of the book reading?
Because I don't think that it's alarming though, but yeah, please go on.
It is alarming.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll talk about it.
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, digitalization is definitely one of the prime problems that are persisting in the society right now. And when I started up, that was like a decade back, 10 years back. So this wasn't a factor that was the main focus, because at that time digitalization wasn't that kind of a thing which would actually alarm you, like the way you said it. But right now, yes, with the passage of time, we have observed that you know, this has become a really big problem. Now, when, like you've talked about the initiative, so when I started like 10 years back, the only thing or the only notion behind the whole, you know, the whole facet of it was that I wanted to return back to community, and I have struggled for about 2 years, and I've invested my time in different genres.
Okay.
So just to pick the right kind of genre, and eventually we reached to Ikra Bismi Rabbika Allazi Khalaq.
True.
So myself and the chairman, Mr. Farooq Dal, this was the initiative by us, but when we were initiating it, we had simply no idea that this was going to go so further, that we would be able to establish 53 libraries all over Pakistan.
Awesome.
That's wonderful.
And not just that, we've done 100 plus conferences and seminars all over Pakistan. We have about signed MOUs with 25 major universities, including Punjab University and Qaid-e-Azam University.
What
and so
exactly
on.
is your initiative? Do you want to
Yes.
revive the book reading, or I mean, do you want to rope in the younger people into it? How are
Yes.
going to deal with the alternative of the digitalization, which is a threat to book reading?
Yes. So now the actual, I would rather say the baseline to Read Pakistan is that, number one, we want to develop the love for books.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to hard copies, that's altogether something that I personally like myself, and I know
Yes.
that Ms. Sabine likes it too. But we cannot negate that there are audiobooks, there are ebooks in the market as well.
Oh, yes.
And we just cannot ignore that fact at the same time. So generally, one, love for books. How do we bring back the community to reading? Because when you're watching a short video on say, for instance, different areas, Insta,
yeah.
Facebook, and so on, I think you're wasting a lot of your time.
I think I
But
learned
if
quite a lot from videos, you know, rather than going through a book, a
And
lengthy book as
every-
well, and reading it. You know, I'll come back to that. This is not something
and
which I'm-
everybody would know
No.
that's like a short
This
clip
is something,
knowledge
this is
that
something
you
which
have.
I would want to kind
Everybody-
of talk
that-
about
that is
because of the
shrinking
fact.
your attention span
allow
a
me
lot.
to speak first. Allow me to speak. The only reason why I'm putting this argument over here is that imagine that, you know, some people can learn better when they read better, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Some people can learn better because of their photographic memory as well. Now, what I'm going to question you about is that why do we associate, you know, book reading? Why do we have to say e-book reading? Why can't we associate reading, may it be book, may it be e-book, may it be from
Tweets?
anywhere else as well? You know, that's what one thing, because what do we want people to do? We want people to read, right? So
Yes.
even if it's from a book, even if it's from an e-book, even if it's from somewhere else, even if it's from the wall, I think it's reading which is most important. No,
That's exactly what I said. That basically, Ikra bismi rabbikal ladhi, Ikra doesn't
Padho.
say that, you know, it doesn't say कि आप किताब पढ़ें. It says पढ़ो. So in general, the basic initiation is that you read. So love for books actually means that we're bringing them down back to reading itself. So this is the actual thought
and how do you
process.
think Read Pakistan will actually help that?
Okay, so we have 6 different modules for that. Now I'm talking about the technical side of
Yep.
it. So each age is divided. So I would put it that 6 different modules are basically from 6 different age groups of your life.
Okay.
So starting from the baby in the womb of the mother, so we move to the teachers who are obviously very important, like yourself. Then the parents, who are the basic structure for developing the reading habit. And then you move on to the next level where you become, of course, when you're you know, in that area, when you say that I'm a career oriented person and you don't have time for reading books.
Yeah.
So that is another module that caters to that category, who say that we don't have time for reading and so on.
So it's a continuous process,
Yes,
which is
it
why
is.
I will come back to, you know, the rest of the you know, modules which you
Yes.
guys offer at Read Pakistan, but I would want to come to Miss Sabine over here. Now, Miss Sabine, you happen to be, alhamdulillah, a teacher, a certified teacher yourself. How many times do you think that you've made sure that you're going to take initiative on making sure that your students read other than whatever the curriculum had to offer? Have you ever, you know, kind of come across a situation where
Or-
बच्चे लोग पुत्र पढ़ लो, बच्चों पढ़ लो, बच्चों पढ़ लो?
Or develop the love of
Yeah.
the reading so that they read it themselves, not as something, you know,
कहना
that
ना
is
पड़ेगा.
imposed from above. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, actually, I'm a remedial therapist. Remedial therapist is a bit different
than- yes.
than the
You
teacher.
were a volunteer teacher at IMCG FF1,
Yes,
FI1.
I
yes.
have
Yeah.
taught as well. I have worked voluntarily, but my degree and my profession
Remedial
is remedial
therapist,
therapist. So remedial therapist is a person who actually encourages or helps children who have learning difficulty with the reading and writing
Yep.
issues. So
मुझे बहुत मसला है मैडम मेरे से नहीं पढ़ने होता. I do feel like reading, but okay, you know, so what I've done is that I do know how important it is for me and my career. So what I do is that even if it's 3 pages, even if it's 4 pages, I will read it. You know, so just to get it out of the box as well. It's a form of self-discipline for me.
What are you reading now?
Yeah, so these days I'm reading The Last City of Love, you know, because just very recently the author was over here. And the most interesting bit was that these days what I'm witnessing is that, you know, for all of those authors who are actually coming in today's time, you are writing, are actually vibing with the newer generation. So that was
Exactly.
something which I was kind of fascinated about, that, okay, you know, they're exactly writing how we speak these days. So I think that the literature always needs to be really modern. I think that's the way that I would want to learn it. You know, vocabulary really needs to be on the higher edge. You know, it really needs to be Queen's English, you know, so something like that. But I think that in today's time, everybody's an author as well, you know.
ये
So
भी
probably, I
बात
don't know,
है.
this is another argument, yeah.
Yes, you're right actually. This is also a problem, but being a remedial therapist, we are trained to apply some pedagogies and strategies which enables a child or
कोई एक
an
strategy
adult.
तो बता देना जो माँ बाप परेशान हो गए भी हमारा बच्चा नहीं पढ़ता किताब में.
Because I think when you deal with the kids who are neurodiverse rather than who are neurotypical, and most of the models of pedagogical models of the teaching are very teacher centric, right? So teacher is considered the
Yeah.
sole authority, and you need to follow her whatever
Yeah.
she is saying, right? But I think with the evolution, with the passing of the time, with the digitalization, we are seeing that that model may be moving towards more towards a student centric.
How is it in your
right?
classroom, Hajra?
Exactly. So it's a bit of both, right? So I am constantly asking them questions. I'm gauging their interest, and they are also contributing
So that
towards
they really
that.
need to come prepared. Otherwise, you know, there's no way that they can get through the class,
I
right?
mean, okay, with that, because I'm teaching social sciences, so that require how you deal with your mental faculty. So I want them to exercise them, because we have
Mashallah.
always been blessed by the blessing of Allah called akal, right? So
Alhamdulillah.
with that, how do you think our teaching curriculum should they need to move towards more teacher centric from the teacher centric to the more student centric models?
Bilkul, that's what actually the single national curricula has developed.
Right.
That now we are working as a interactive lessons and classes, and it was missing prior to
And
that.
that's-
And we have
that's
trained
exactly
the
what we
government. We have introduced it to the government sector as well, because prior when we enter to training system to government sector, when we asked them to do go for the brainstorming, they didn't know even what is exactly brainstorming.
There you
So,
are.
सही बता रही हो. So, so it's a great change actually, and we have introduced a multidisciplinary team that everybody we can't work all alone. First of all, the student, then the teacher, the class teacher, the subject teacher, then the management and the parents.
Yeah.
And this is the actually crust of our intervention or program, that parents have to cooperate with the child, with the student. If we are not going to work collaboratively, we were unable to promote this reading culture. And for reading, there are so many techniques, as you have asked. It's very easy that we give them, you can write few tags, yellow strips जो होती हैं, stick-ons. You can put it on your wall and shelves, and you just write the name, clock, door, bell, table. This is how the child starts reading. It is how you can develop a reading habit of reading.
And thank you so much, Ms. Sabeen, for saying that as well, because I've seen in my family as well, alhamdulillah, that where my siblings, when they read, obviously all of their children are reading. This is one thing which I'm going to kind of say with 100% guarantee, that because my wife, we read at home. That's one reason why my daughters love to read. They would always be in our library, in our book corner. They would always take out something and we'll sit down and talk about it.
And storytelling is also very important.
Exactly.
If a parent is sitting with the child, and especially at night, they are.
I know,
I know, mashallah.
So the rest of the modules of the Read Pakistan initiative, please take us through that as well. You mentioned 3.
Yes, well, I've mentioned that we have altogether 6 modules.
Yep.
One is for the teachers, the other one is for the parents, and so on. So one of the way that Sabeen is saying, so we also give them how these are sort of workshops in which they are told how you can attract different age groups towards the books.
Right.
So when it comes to little babies, primary and secondary, they have a completely different altogether attitude towards books. They are more enthusiastic and more encouraged towards walking towards a book. And but what their basic problem comes in is the initiative to stick to that book. The persistence part is missing. With the teenagers, we have noticed with the passage of time that they would be very difficult to grab in. But once they are grabbed in, then they try to stick with books. And usually it is the fiction that they are liking. Then also the digitalization plays its role, the way you said it.
And how important is the environment around them? Now
Very
imagine that,
most important.
because when we go into a restaurant, most of the time before even having the food, we love it because of the ambience that we get in the restaurant, right? So do you think that there are certain atmospheres that you would certainly feel like reading? For example, if I am somewhere, I have lush green lawns in front of me, there's a hammock hanging, there's sun out, I would certainly want to read over there. That's one thing which I would love to do. So do you think that it's the environment which kind of pushes somebody away from the books or kind of attracts to the books?
Yes, definitely. This is one of the major things. There are more than 70 papers that I personally have been through, research papers, and it's very important that the ambience counts as much. Well, starting from the very beginning, when the child is in the womb, that is the first ambience that he gets. If the mother is reading, the child will automatically start reading. When of course, he's in the world and he's interacting. So, another of the examples is that in Britain, mostly what happens is that when a baby is delivered, they usually give a set of books to be gifted to the mother to read it out to them, and so on. So this is the starting of the ambience. And now then, coming to your point, it's so important that where you're sitting, a good place. That is the reason why most of the researchers come down to that you need to make your own corner to sit there, to enjoy the luxury of books. So it is something which is there. It's considered to be a luxury all over the world. So I've been to a couple of countries myself, and I see that everybody is carrying a book, and it's not doesn't have to be a book. When I was young, yes, definitely it was a book, but it can be a phone that you're carrying an audio book in, or you're carrying an e-book in, and it's perfectly fine like that. But people do have that connection, that love, that association with books, because this is something where you can associate yourself with.
Thank you so much, Fatma, for putting it right up as well. For everybody who's out there, just because of the shortage of time, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have to wrap up over here. But thank you so much, Ms. Fatma.
Shahzad, just I wanted to add in her point,
quickly.
very quickly, that Read Pakistan, as you're talking about the ambience and environment, Read Pakistan is actually conducting hikes. And in that they have a book session over there where we
Well,
conduct
I don't know
a
whether
story.
you should be reading while you're hiking as well.
No,
I
no,
think it's
when we reach
it's
a
life
certain-
hazard over there.
No, when we reach
Okay, so when you reach somewhere, then you sit down read.
and we do.
Only if you can catch your breath. I think
we understand, but somebody actually do the narration or some storytelling session over
exactly,
there.
that
This
can
is
certainly
what-
happen. But thank you so much, Mr. Bean,
Thank
for
you
being
so
with
much.
us. Thank you so much, Ms.
Thank you
Fatma,
so
for
much.
being with us. For everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, if your parents are going to read, you're going to read too as well. So if you are a parent and your parents weren't reading, you should read because of the fact that you know that your kids will read just because of the fact that they're seeing their parents read. Until next time, look after yourselves. It's a good morning. Have a great week ahead.
Good morning.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.